Hey everybody, this is Doc Mac from the Galloping Ghost Arcade out in Brookfield, Illinois. It is Friday, September 4th, 2015, and I am joined here by Pete Hahn,
Hey everyone, how you doing today?
who is also our Gamer of the Year.
Thank you.
Yes, I keep needing to remember to put that as in your title when I introduce you. It's Goaty.
It's okay. Goaty, grody.
But first, I guess want to thank everybody for. We've been getting a lot of people responding well to these podcasts, so we will continue to do them.
Yeah, a lot more people are listening to them than I thought ever would. I mean, this is kind of just, we do this for fun, and it's awesome that people are listening and interacting with us and responding and posting questions for us.
Yeah, I just saw one from Duke recently, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show, but definitely thank you everybody for everything, and
Yeah, we'll keep going.
yeah, we'll keep doing them.
Cool. So, how do you want to go off of go for the some new high scores and new world records that have been
Yeah,
set?
I know there's been a lot of good new scores going up lately.
I have a screen capture of our scoreboard going back about a week or so. I think it was last Friday. We had a gentleman by the name of Eric Kim put up a huge Raiden 2 score.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of people on Facebook were really impressed with it because it's actually a really hard game.
It is. It is.
And he came in and was like, "I think I can beat that score." I'm like, "Okay, let's put out a camera for you." And later in the day, he took a couple practice games. One of his practice games, he beat the score, but we didn't record it. And then we finally put the camera in front of him, and he put up over like 550K. I want to say it was. No, yeah, it was 567 is what he put up. So he managed to beat the high by almost 100,000 that we had posted.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Another score that jumps to mind, I know Jamie Tibbetts put up a new score in Freeze.
Yep.
Which the new Atari prototype game that we put up on our anniversary week, and congrats to him. Great score.
Yeah, he was like 61,000 or so.
Yes.
You're nipping at his heels, though. It looks like you're at like 59K.
I was talking with Tim Foley, who is also gunning for that score.
Cool.
I've been happy to see that people are totally digging that game.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of fun. I told Tim that I would I'm not really working after the score at this point. I'm just still enjoying the game, and I think there's some hidden stuff in there, because if you watch the title screen, they show a character that's not selectable.
Is he like an unlockable, like Akuma type character?
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be. It's this crazy looking chicken.
Nice.
But at the time, Atari was doing some stuff with timed release stuff, like characters like in Mace.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was kind of...
Atari always had a bunch of secrets in a lot of their games. Like, they love the Easter egg type things. Like, Primal Rage has a bunch. They have, like, the volleyball mode and all that. Like, there's just always... I don't know. And there was a couple, like, even in Atari Week, there might have been a couple games that had, like, secrets like that in them.
Yeah. So. Yeah, definitely cool that they put that stuff in. And, again, Freeze, really cool game. Glad everybody seems to be enjoying it. And congrats to Jamie for getting that one. And I know he's also been busy with the big Airbusters.
Yeah, Quest for the Glove.
The Quest for the Glove.
Yeah, it's between him, Pete Gores, and Jeremiah, I think, are the people that are kind of in this contest right now. Is Mazes? Oh, is he in it too?
Yeah.
He put up a pretty good score right away, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Last I heard, he was still in it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like there's a few guys gunning for that score, and they're not really gunning for the score. They're gunning for a 1cc, but a good score will naturally happen, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know they're getting pretty far in the game, but no one has completed the game so far.
Right. So, what else we have?
You put up a new X multiply score, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I upped my X multiply score. I'm getting to the last level finally, and I'm kind of going in blind and not really knowing what to do because I do the YouTube thing. I like to watch replays of other players, but they're not. This game it's not really helpful for me because all the replays I'm seeing on YouTube are all using autofire, and they're shooting things faster than I can get rid of them. And there's these little orbs that are like seeking me, and I can't shoot them before they get on the screen, before they have a chance to spawn. In the videos on YouTube, they get rid of the things that spawn them before they even get on the screen, and I can't fire that fast. You know, it's the limit of my pressing my button quick enough. But it's just I think it's a telling thing. Like auto fire scores should definitely not be accepted in the same sentence as scores where you're pressing the button manually at all times. But I'm kind of doing this one blind on my own, and I gotta see what I can do with the score. But I really want to, at least clear one loop of the game. So I'm getting to the last level. I'm hoping to clear it soon, though.
Cool. Well, and that kind of brings us to one of our first topics of the day, regarding Mame.
Yeah. So yeah, Mame is kind of been like a hot topic. Like a lot of people like whisper about it in hushed tones, like they don't want to talk about it. But I don't know. Like I kind of want to just talk about it and see how everyone feels. And please feel free to respond if you have any thoughts you want to share on Mame. But I don't know. How do you feel on Mame? I know like you wouldn't have it on your arcade floor for at all. But
no. Like for actual games here, we have never allowed emulation. For me, it's always I like original arcade hardware, and but Mame does bring up an interesting, like as far as the business goes, we have used it as a resource for when we're repairing games.
Like what should this game look like when it's running properly type thing? Or
well, not only that, but more so if a ROM is damaged, the Mame ROMs are the actual rips of the arcade board ROMs.
Oh, so you can just write those to another chip?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For example, we just had, even with Freeze,
Mm-hmm.
It's a prototype game, but it is backed up in Mame, and the board that we had a bad ROM. So if we didn't have Mame and the giant library of games that are on there, we would not have been able to fix the original board.
Okay.
So in that sense, in a preservation sense of it, it's an amazing resource that we definitely need. As far as playing, though, yeah, it's not something that like we've used it as far as like researching a game.
Yeah, I remember you showing me Marshall Masters before we got out on the floor, and you were like, "Check this out," and it was cool to see what we were getting into. I remember that.
Well, was that on Mame or was that?
Oh, that was
YouTube?
That was on YouTube.
That was
right.
a YouTube video.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was Mame. Yeah.
But games like Outfoxies, when I had seen the board being sold, and I was like, I've never heard of that game. I did. I loaded it up into Mame first, and was like, wow, this is awesome. I would definitely. I want that board here. It's got to be here. Like people have to play this game.
Yeah.
And it's a good way of finding games that otherwise I would have never heard of, stuff I've never seen in the arcades before. So it's useful for that. But as far as playing it, if I want to sit down and play a game, me personally, I don't do it on Mame. I'm fortunate that I can just be like, oh, I've got to go to work, and I want to go play this game, and usually we have it.
Yeah.
Usually.
So, how do you feel about like players that are like they want to play these games but they don't have access to them? Do you think that's the way to go?
Well, and that it gets into a gray area really quick. It's like the people. What do you do when you're competing for a score? Or you just want to play a game. And it's like you can't fault somebody for just wanting to play a game in their house. And,
right. It's comfortable. You're in your favorite chair, and you got the controller you like. And
in that sense, I think that's totally fine. When you, I don't know, it starts getting indifferent when you're like when you go for scores. I think that brings up a much different area. Like there's so many advantages that are given to the Mame players.
Right. I've heard people compare it to steroids because you're kind of like if you don't use them, you're behind everyone else. But if you do use them, you have to use them to keep up with people that are using them, basically, or else you're not on a level, you're not on the same playing field, basically.
And like it's hard to like, where do you draw the line? Like,
yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's arbitrary, I think, too.
We had kind of gotten into a discussion of is it the knowledge of how to play the game, or is it the skill of playing the game? It's like even watching videos, like you're gaining the knowledge of how to do certain things.
Right.
Like you can kind of build certain things into muscle memory, especially through save states.
Right.
Like one of the biggest problems that Mame people going for score that I have with people going for score that play on Mame is save states, because if you have a trouble on level 5 and you play up to level 5, you save state it, and then you just grind that part out until it's easy.
Right.
Then you go back to the arcade and you play it, and lo and behold, you have the world record.
Right.
There's something that's taken away when you don't have to play those 4 levels again, leading up to that 5th stage that you're having a problem with. You can it just becomes you're going to do it quicker.
Right. I mean, you're supercharging your learning time.
Right.
And you're kind of cutting out the time before it takes. Like every time you play the game where you didn't play 1 through 4, that's not how the game. If you were in an arcade putting a quarter in, that's not how you'd play it.
Well, and that even brings up the other question of the arcade, how it is. Like, you are in an arcade here where if you were going after a score, you can be on the game all day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not worrying about money. You can do, like, throwaway games. Like, even that level is different. Like, when you would put a quarter in back in the day, if you had a bad start, you still played it.
Right, you tried to recover it, yeah.
Like, you watch people playing, like, Ghosts and Goblins. It's like, oh, I picked up the fire.
I'm just going to walk into this.
I'm just going to walk off this ledge or get killed by a Grim Reaper.
Totally.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And start right back up. So, like, the psychology of not having to feed that quarter in has changed things.
Yeah.
But it is. It's like and it's the same thing though if you own the machine at your house. Like, there's so many different aspects to what is making it different than it used to be. Like, should records be regarded in the same ways as they used to be? There's a lot of different elements to it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can really deny that if you're like practicing on Mame, you're definitely going to get better. I mean, there's no way you're not because you're practicing. But I think it's also kind of a double-edged sword because you're not in the same environment as you would be when you're trying to set a score. If you're going to try to set it in the arcade, I guess like you're going to get used to the control you have at home. You're not going to be used to the arcade's control. You're going to be used to sitting in your favorite chair, not in the same conditions with people passing you by, with the sounds, with the lights, with everything that you're normally going to have in an arcade. You get used to your environment that you're not going to be playing in for your score. And I don't know. I just think that it's an interesting dynamic that you become accustomed to something that you want to learn, like the game, but you become accustomed to the things that you don't want to become accustomed to as well.
Right, but I think if you're learning it on Mame, you can still go in. Like, if there's a part that you're having a problem with at the arcade and you play it 10 times and you get the same spot and you get killed off at the same time, you go back, you play it on Mame, even without getting comfortable with the controls. Like, it's the knowledge and knowing the timing and the controls. Most everything is going to be somewhat comparable. Like, obviously you're not going to have the people walking around but even still, it's you'll have, and it depends on the game as well, but you will have that breakthrough point of, oh, this is where I have to be to get past this part. I need to my ship has to be here and I have to shoot like this, and then you come back and you just do it. Is it it's just different.
Totally.
It's different. But again, isn't that just knowledge? And once you've gained that knowledge, you go back and the game is easier.
Like you still have to execute it, but yeah, you have the knowledge at that point.
But how is that any different than watching a YouTube video?
It's not in your muscle memory on the YouTube video, so I guess it's a little bit different, but otherwise it's kind of similar.
Right.
Yeah.
And like ultimately, there's no right or wrong here. Like you can't, if somebody comes into the arcade and they just put up the score, you can't deny them the score.
Right. You can't put a little asterisk that says this guy used Mame at home, like, or can you?
Or do you think you should?
I don't know. I mean,
and will the players have that sort of transparency?
I don't know. That's another. I guess that's another topic, but it's interesting because I think the way everything's going now is, we're recording most of our runs and putting them on YouTube. A lot of players are using the cameras or wanting to stream. I think everything's becoming more transparent, and I think the days of like secret submissions are going away.
But is it like the transparency, like recording somebody actually going and doing it, is like they can do it? Like that's not the question. The question is, does it matter that they did save states on Mame, or did they watch the video, or did they? And again, you can cut it so thin as like, did somebody show you how to do this?
Right.
Or like, I think there's so many different ways to look at it, and not that you have like, would people be transparent on it, and who cares if they are or aren't?
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's some games where there's like home ports though. Like, and then would we have to note someone that played the home version?
Absolutely. Like
yeah.
I have a game like Midnight Resistance. I used to finish that on Genesis all the time on one guy, and the arcade was really easy when I got to it.
And it's pretty similar.
Oh yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's an amazing port.
Oh, okay, cool.
I didn't remember most of it, but I had like a trick with shooting that I came up with myself on Genesis. But what's the difference?
Yeah,
like,
just the controls in the environment, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It all carried over. Like it didn't stop me from getting the score. Right. But should it be noted that I played it a lot on Genesis before I got?
I don't think you have to note that thing. I mean,
but then why does Mame matter?
I guess maybe it shouldn't. I don't know.
But it kind of feels like it does.
I guess. I mean, if someone's played a game enough, they're gonna know it. It doesn't matter how they learned it,
Right. Like it's like, is it just about the end result and just who gets the score, but there's some people that have walked away from games just because they don't want to deal with the frustration of, I don't want to play through the first 4 levels again and get to the 5th level.
Just to learn that 5th level.
Right. And maybe you learn it that time, maybe you don't. Like, there's so many different options and where your ship can be, or what order to attack the enemies. And
totally, yeah. So I don't know. Home ports to me feel a little different. I don't know. I use like Xbox Live Arcade. They have a great port of like Contra Arcade that I fire up all the time because I just like the game and it's pretty arcade accurate. So I use that and I play that at home.
And that's a whole nother thing. Like, are you save stating on that?
Well, you can't. I mean, it's Xbox Live, so you can't. I mean, you can put up scores for it, but they don't count for here.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing, I guess, Mame feels to me like it's the practice green. It's the driving range. It's not. I mean, it's a tool, but when you come to the arcade and play, that's when you're playing for real. Like, I guess, who's the king of Kong? It's not Dean Saglow who has the higher score, but done in Mame, of Donkey Kong. It's Robbie Lakeman who has the highest score done in an arcade. So to me, I guess Mame feels like a means to set a score, and I don't. I mean, if people use it, they use it, but unless they do it in an arcade, I guess I don't respect it as much.
But, and if they say they're playing Darius Gaiden, and they practice at one point where you drop some points, over and over and over, save states, and they're never going to miss that score, and they take that score thanks to Mame, whereas you don't Mame it.
Well, that's tough. I mean,
They're
Yeah.
playing it better, but
I guess they're executing better than me, so I guess they deserve it. I mean, they're executing the same game better than me.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, in that game in particular, like I'm super proud of that score because I was posting my score on the Shmups forums, and they have they have their Hall of Records, and you can you take a screenshot and you can post it there. And I have the highest score on the Mame forum or on the Shmups forums. I have the highest score of any player that didn't use autofire. I was beating most players there. They have about 80 people that put up scores there.
yeah.
My score is like the seventh highest.
Everyone on the Shmups forum, those guys
They're
pretty much all take it very serious.
They all take it super seriously, and I'm like 6th or 7th overall out of like 70 or 80 players. But I do have the highest score without using the autofire.
Yeah,
and that's playing the game with autofire. I think it's different. They probably shouldn't count it, but people are asking me, "Hey, how'd you do that?" It felt really good among these experts. People were asking me, "How did you squeeze this amount of points out of it?" So to me, it felt like, if I want to give that knowledge to people, I can, but they've got to execute it still.
right.
So that score is, in that way, is very special to me because even among those experts, I feel I've accomplished something.
Right. But, and again, like if the tools are out there, and Mame is just a tool, and they still do have to execute it. But do you think scores should have taglines with them being like giving more information? Or are you happy with just name, date, number?
If we're just gonna give name, date, number, I want to see like the video. So like if it's gonna be all transparent, like show me exactly how you did it.
Right.
And that way you're gonna take like the knowledge part out of it. So it's just up to someone to execute better. But I guess I'd be okay with that. I guess today it feels like everything should be more transparent to me.
Yeah.
So as long as they're showing a video, I guess I don't care how they got it.
But what about with I don't know. Like it's to me, and we had this discussion last week about the knowledge versus execution. The save stating, I think you don't feel that breaks the spirit of the game.
Well, if you're in the spirit of the game, if you mean like how the game was programmed, I mean in that way it does. I mean, I think a lot of games now that we play aren't played the way the programmers originally intended. That's just another way that they're being broken. I guess I feel it's like it's not the way you'd play it in an arcade, yes, but if you use it that way, it's just a tool. It's like training mode for a fighting game. If you execute your combo perfectly in a training mode, you might not be able to do it still in tournament when the heat is on. When you're in an actual match, that's when it really matters. That's why I'm okay with it, because there's different pressures on you to perform when you're out of your comfort zone. And I personally had that problem when I started playing Mortal Kombat 9, where I could do these nice big combos, and I was doing well against local players, but I didn't do well when I was traveling out and going to tournaments for a long time. And I had to figure out why, and I was, because I was out of my element, I was out of my training room, I wasn't amongst my friends. Well, they, some of them traveled with me, but finally, I broke through and, had good performances against other players, because I was able to break a mental, I guess, I don't know, a barrier, I guess, where I was able to perform under the pressures of the tournament, and that's, to me, that's what doing it in arcade means.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing.
True. Interesting.
Yeah, it's I guess it's different strokes for different folks, and I don't want anyone to feel whatever their beliefs is. You're definitely welcome to it, and I'm not going to try to persuade you in any way.
There's no wrong here.
Yeah.
Like people play Mame, people don't play Mame.
Yeah.
It's
I just what I don't like when people don't have access to games. I totally see it as like, oh, they just want to play a game. That's for me. That's totally cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There's people that don't have a local arcade.
Sure. They just want to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel about the whole like practice versus like tournament type mentality? Is that not what you would agree with?
What do you mean?
Like, if you do a score in Mame, like, should that be held as the same weight as an arcade performance?
No, like Mame, the arcade scores and how, like, for example, Arcade handles it. It is about being in an arcade.
Mm-hmm.
It's Mame is just something different. It is
its own platform.
It is.
Yeah.
It's no different than like Midnight Resistance on Genesis versus the arcade. They're pretty much the same, but they're different.
Right.
But yeah, like I would never for a second think to blend a Mame score and a arcade score.
See, that's interesting because a lot of these forums do. Like a lot of the Donkey Kong forum and Shmups, they put them all on the same scoreboard and like they show like what platform you did it on and what your score was, and there's scores on Darius Gaten from the arcade version, from Mame, from the Saturn version, all on the same scoreboard.
And that's fine for them. Like
right.
I don't
like
whatever.
That,
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But that's me and my mentality, to each their own. Like
right.
if that's how they want to do it. Like if we have a score that's verified by a scoring house that has
they're credible.
like a credible scoring house, then we try to acknowledge it. We for a long time have been trying to get scores in from like the Japanese arcades, and it's been slow going, but that's still something that we're working towards. Just because
it's cool.
Yeah, but it's hard to find a credible source that.
How do you find out what settings they use if it's in a different language?
Right.
Yeah, it's like you want to give them credit, but if they're not in the same settings, you can't compare. They're not. It's apples to oranges at that point.
Well, in some instances, even the ADS default settings are different from region to region.
Right.
So it's like you have to. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
It's weird. You mentioned that, and I remember looking at the Contra settings, and when I was looking at the difficulty, they were saying how on the U.S. boards, default difficulty is easy, and in Japan, medium difficulty is default.
Yeah.
It's like I would have never known that, but I was looking at the actual manual of the game, and it's like this setting would vary based on your region.
Right.
And that was news to me.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, with as big as scoring has become, I don't ever think it's been taken far enough. I think a lot more needs to be added to the credibility of scoring, and I think a lot more information needs to be in place. Stuff like version numbers and just the dip settings, it's a step, but it needs to be more. Even with controls and stuff, like
if someone did the score on Sanwa, it might have been easier than doing it on Hap.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or on some games like Rampart, if you're doing trackball versus joystick,
yeah.
like
that is different. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that need to be just brought out, and I think there needs to be a higher standard set. Like everybody that sets scores here, everybody takes it very seriously. And I think the scoring houses need to really step up and take it to a more professional level. Like it's getting to the point where, like the term world record, we want that to have a lot of credibility to it.
I want that to have more meaning. Like
absolutely.
Every time I put one in, I've been including the picture on Orcade because I want people to see it. Like
that's excellent.
So they know, but. I wish that more players would do that, or there's a YouTube link feature on Orcade now too. Like you can link a video in a submission.
Absolutely.
Like when you hit send as an Orcade ref.
And even with that, we have the cameras that we give. Like we've got the setup that people can take their own videos out, even if they just want to do their personal scores,
right? And
have that documented. Like, that in itself is such a big thing. Like you want to. I think more people should be using that feature.
Yeah, I think it's a good tool to learn too. Like, I recorded so many runs of me playing R-Type before I finally got it.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating watching my deaths, but it made the next run better.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good tool.
And for me, to me, learning from like watching your own videos, I think that's a great thing. Like,
I know Duke does that a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. He downloads everyone's videos.
Yeah.
When he goes to the cameras, he goes through all the SD cards and he's like, I wonder whose videos these are. And he would, he loads them onto his laptop and watches them when he gets home. He likes watching the footage.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of Duke, that brings us up to.
Oh, he had a good question on
yes.
on Facebook earlier today. I think it was. the future of pinball and other types of games at Galloping Ghost. And I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this. And you want to get into it now?
Sure.
Okay.
Pinball, and basically Duke had said that due to the high maintenance levels of pinball, should we still have it? And I think that it's a great question. It's something that I brought up with Ken, who helps us with our pinball repair. I've brought it up with a lot of the pro pinball, the people that are in they play pin in leagues and stuff.
Yeah.
And the pro pinball players don't play pinball here.
Right.
Well, and their response was they definitely want to see pinball here at GGA.
Right.
But they don't play it here.
See, to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, if it doesn't affect them, why would they have such a strong opinion?
Well,
or is it a strong opinion?
It's not that it's super strong. Like, I don't think anybody realizes how much people love playing pinball, even if they don't know how to play it properly.
Well, I think people also don't know how much people abuse them when they don't know how to play them properly.
Well, and I think there's a lot of that's very true. It's like most people think they do know how to play pinball, and they really don't.
Right. I don't.
Well, and I had played a lot of pinball back in the day. For me, arcades have pinball, and I don't foresee us getting rid of pinball completely ever. Although it is a lot of space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how quick we are to fix them. They just go down, and it's just from the massive amount of play that we put on them.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we have to be so strict, but we've got like warning signs on all the machines. Like if they're off for a reason.
Right.
People start turning them on, trying to play them, and that just makes the problems worse.
For sure.
So if you see something off, please don't turn it on. It's supposed to be off. We're not trying to ruin your day by having your favorite game turned off. It's off because it's not working right.
And we really do try to get them back on as quick as possible. And the ones that seem like, oh, this was down last time I was here, it's really because they get played that much. I came in one morning, 5:30 in the morning, and I was just like, I'm going to shop out everything in the pinball room. And we had, I had everything running on a Monday.
Yeah.
And by Wednesday, 6 of them were down.
6 out of like 9?
6 out of 9.
Yeah.
And it can be something small that has to be gone back into and fixed. You never know. It's always, it can be, there's so many moving parts in them.
Yeah, I think that a lot of players don't realize that the amount of play that they get here is exponentially more than what they normally get either at other places or in a home arcade.
Absolutely.
I mean, on a slow Saturday, we have 300 people through the door.
Right.
So I think that the number of people playing these is just so much more than what was originally intended.
Well, and we do have, when we moved them over from the expansion area to the main floor, the counters had been reset. And in a month, the counters were, according to Ken, they were, in 30 days, it was as much play as most places get in a year.
Oh, okay, that's nuts.
It's just an incredible amount.
So I think people love that we have them, but I don't think they realize the I guess what goes into that.
Right,
Yeah.
and pinball, what do you say, we don't ever want to, like, 3 of the machines, like the Funhouse machine was our first one. That was the pin that I played personally the most back in the day.
Was that your pin, or was that?
That was not my pin. I didn't own that actual pin.
Okay.
But that was a pin that I spent a lot of time on. And buying our first batch of 114 games, it was 113 machines and 1 pinball.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Actually, no, it was 114 machines and Funhouse.
Okay.
That was separate. But the Gorgar and Space Invaders were the actual machines I grew up playing. that I got from two of my friends had them in their houses, and so I spent a lot of time on those machines. So I want to keep those out for people to enjoy. But yeah, it's Duke had brought up, what if we would get rid of that, take out pins and put in DDR?
Well, did he say that, or was he saying it's the same kind of thing? DDR is the same kind of maintenance nightmare? Or is that what he's saying? Like to get rid of one to put in the other?
I think it was get rid of one to put in the other.
Oh, okay.
Or I don't know. Maybe I didn't read that well enough. But
either way,
it is.
It's the same kind of thing, I think.
It is. It is something that people have asked for a lot.
We know there's a huge audience for it.
There is.
Yeah.
The one thing, myself, I never got into the DDR games. And it does make it less appealing. Like, well, I do want to represent all the genres of gaming. I worry about not doing them well enough.
Or doing them justice.
Absolutely.
Right.
They do take up a lot of space, as do pins.
Yeah.
They do take a lot of maintenance, as do pins. They're definitely expensive.
Yeah.
Not as expensive as pins, but expensive.
Yeah.
They're loud.
Yeah. By nature, they're loud.
They have to be.
Yeah.
But so are pins.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really comes down to, I think if we had the people that are really into them, and again, this isn't unlike pins, the people that are on them tend to be on them for a long time.
Right.
It's not like the video arcades, people will play them, they'll finish them, and they'll leave. Whereas with DDR and pinball, they just kind of
keep going.
They do. They just want to play game after game after game.
Yeah, and I don't. With our business model, that might turn into a customer service issue where no one's letting anyone else play. I can see that happening. But yeah, if someone's on there and they don't want to get off and you're just sitting there waiting all day, I don't know. I wouldn't want to wait if I was going to play,
Yeah, you just want to jump in and get one game.
Yeah.
And they're going.
And there's a professional on there that's just going and loading a different song list every time.
Right. Space-wise, pinball does take up a lot of space. Like, if we put, I don't want to be hypocritical here because we just picked up a massively huge cabinet.
Yeah. Is that still secret?
Yes and no. You know what? We'll give a little bonus here for our people that listen to the podcast. We have one of our games came in from Japan. One of our, was it 5 games?
I don't know.
We have 4 games coming in from Japan. One has arrived and has been assembled, and it is massively huge.
It's pretty awesome.
It's a lot of fun. I don't know. Should we say it?
I don't know. How about if you mention this when we have staff here, we'll bring you next door.
How about this? Submit a new high score for either Castlevania or Haunted Castle, and you can come next door and try something that's really cool.
Is that a hint?
Yeah, it's a pretty big hint. But
all right, so we'll just leave it there?
Yeah.
Okay, so it has to be a personal high score, or it has to be the high score on the machine?
No,
or?
Just a personal high score.
Okay, because beating Pete Gore's score on Castle is not going to be easy.
You don't need to beat Pete Gore's is amazing.
Or Matt Walters versus Castlevania.
Right, you don't need to do that.
I think there might be 3 people in the world that'll beat that score.
Just put in a personal high score on either one.
Okay.
Haunted Castle or Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to one of us, have it submitted, and you will be privy to a special
showing
of something that when we get a shrink ray will be over on the arcade floor.
Cool.
Or a bigger building.
Yeah, bigger boat.
Bigger boat. Shout out to Dan Iacovelli.
Yep. Shout out to everyone that listens.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Was there anything else you wanted to bring up, or yeah, we can save this for next time. I think we're running kind of long, aren't we?
Cool. I guess we should go over. We just added Crater.
Yeah.
Craterator and RC Squared and International Team Laser.
Team Laser's turned into some other game, didn't it?
That became Blasted.
Blasted, okay.
But we have both.
Cool.
RC Squared and International Team Laser, of course, donated to us by legendary game creator Brian Colin, who did Rampage and Xenophobe, and so many other great games. We have he'll be coming in for an event pretty soon. We're going to be doing a Pigskin 621 Arch Rivals and Dirty Pigskin tournament.
All on the same day?
All on the same day.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's going to be one of the upcoming Saturdays.
We're going to have the Sean Quigley Norbert Vale grudge match.
We have talked to Sean Quigley and Norbert Vale, Brian Keita. We're trying to get it all sorted out when everybody can make it. So it will be a Saturday coming up soon.
Okay. We'll announce that on Facebook, I'm guessing.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. But also, yes, Craterator. Great Bally Midway game.
Music's pretty cool in that game.
Oh,
the bass.
Everything about that game is amazing.
The thing shakes when the bass hits.
It has an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
The way they did the mirrored screen on it gives it such great depth. Mm-hmm. We got to give huge shout outs to Jeremy Fox at Prince Arcades for tracking one down for us.
Oh, nice. James put up a score yesterday for that too. It's over 60K already.
Yeah, James did. Getting that one, I knew James would be all over that one.
Yeah, it seems like his type of game, like
yes.
the Orail, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Tank controls.
But I had seen one for sale, and the seller wanted $3,000 for it.
Ouch.
It's a super rare game. I had never seen it for sale before. But Jeremy tracked one down out in Seattle, I believe, for like $300.
Wow.
So we just had it shipped in, and Jeremy set it all up for us. So huge thanks to him.
Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. But definitely, next time anybody's in, it's in the back by Freeze right now. Definitely check it out.
See if you can put up a score and beat James, maybe. No, James has got a pretty good score going already.
Yeah, for sure.
Setting the bar pretty high. He's got an introductory world record for that of 61,000 something.
Yeah, he's been. He was also working on Interstellar again.
Yeah, he went back to that already too. He beat Pete Gorza's score by a little bit the other day.
Did he? That's excellent.
So, yeah,
I know Pete will be back on it. I don't know. Pete.
We had Mozzie's put up a Trog prototype score that beat Sean Quigley's score, so we had to give him a shout out too for a good score there.
Yes. Again, I was looking through our some of the pictures from the previous weeks, and there's George Petro playing Trog prototype and showing everybody, and that was definitely a lot of fun. And we do have another really cool George Petro surprise coming up very soon that I am super excited for.
Cool.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Awesome.
So I guess we'll wrap it up here.
Cool. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been Pete Hahn.
And this is Doc Mack from the Galloping Ghost Arcade, and we hope to see you around the arcade soon. Thanks for listening, everybody.